Tonight from Rocky Top, the 7th-ranked Tennessee Volunteers take the floor looking to stay perfect in their series against Eastern Kentucky, 5-0 so far, which includes a meeting in the NCAA tournament. Smokey is fired up and ready to go, and so are we, fresh from the Hawaiian Islands. Damian Fishback joins me here courtside. I'm Tom Hart. Damian, we're talking before. You think that Rick Barnes has a team that is capable of bringing home Tennessee's first ever national championship?
Yeah, they're accustomed to SEC championships and SEC tournament championships. We're going to explain to you why we think they can compete for a national championship this year. It all starts with the coach. You're thinking about Coach Rick Barnes, obviously over 760 wins. We know he's capable. The defense ranked top amongst KenPom in most of the defensive categories, offensive rebounding and guard play as well. They do not turn over the basketball. Assist-to-turnover ratio, phenomenal. The question marks: how good can they be offensively? Around 30 in KenPom with their offensive efficiency. Their health, still trying to get guys like Josiah Jordan-James, Santiago Vescovi healthy, and then to get through that ceiling of the Sweet 16, Elite Eight-ish, if you will, they got to have a bucket getter. We don't know who that is for Tennessee yet. We'll see if he evolves as the season goes forward.
Rick Barnes had a very challenging practice with his team yesterday after Sunday's blowout against Alcorn State. And if practice and shoot-around today are any indication, we will not see Santiago Vescovi in this game, still nursing a sore left shoulder that he injured during the McNeese game last week. And there's your proof. Tough to play in khakis.
He's all smiles, though.
Eastern Kentucky 4-4 on this young season. They're now in the ASUN. They had 5 wins last year. Coming off of a loss Friday at James Madison, they scored 97, allowed 97, and right off the bat, Cooper Robb gets a bucket on the tip. This is a high-tempo pressure team and style run by A.W. Hamilton. They want the tempo to be the fastest you've seen. And that might just play into Tennessee's hands. But right off the bat, Javon Mashack turns it over. Colonels 1-2 on the road this season. They lead the ASUN in scoring better than 83 points a game. Uroš Pavčić with the deny up top. Last year, this EKU team was 3rd in the country in three-point attempts. They love to put it up from deep. Shot clock late, and a leaning three from Tayshawn Comer's off the mark, and a rebound tracked down by their big, Isaiah Cozart. EKU kind of stole one right off the tip.
Yeah, well, they like to play what they call the fastest 40 minutes in basketball. If you think about styles, you think about Mike Anderson and Nolan Richardson when they were at Arkansas, what Shaka Smart's bringing back to Marquette, Rick Pitino with Coach Hamilton being a Kentucky guy. And you see their goals, whether it's scoring, three-point shots, assists, steals, forced turnovers, deflections. They are going to play fast, and they're going to do it for the entire game.
Mashack picked up a foul a moment ago. Here's Plavšić looking inside now. What does Tennessee look like without Santiago Vescovi?
Well, they have one less shooter. The good news for them is that they have multiple guys who can knock down the shot from the perimeter. And in this game particularly, they're going to have an advantage on the interior whenever they choose to take advantage.
Rick Barnes was looking forward to this matchup, saying, you know, we get to see another style tonight. Moreno fires from 3. Got it! And as Michael Moreno, preseason all-conference in the ASUN, he's out of Scott County High School, the same high school A.W. Hamilton, his coach, was a great player for. And Rick Barnes is not happy. He'll go to the bench immediately.
Well, we talk about that style, right? The best time to score is in transition. Not bad defense by Conwell, but like you said, you've got to know the scouting report. Michael Moreno, 6th in the ASUN, three-point field goal percentage around 40.4. And so Coach Rick Barnes is basically still fuming from what I saw in practice yesterday, Tom Hart.
Yeah, he was kind of laughing with us. He said, I had to create some conflict in practice. And he's a coach that knows, yes, they're off to a great start. They're 7-1. They've won 6 in a row. They did great in the Bahamas tournament. But here's a guy who's been the Naismith Coach of the Year, been to 4 straight NCAA tournament appearances. I get the feeling, Fish, that he knows that the ceiling for this team is national championship, and so he's going to be as demanding as he can be throughout the season.
That's a great call, Tom. And you think about a game like Eastern Kentucky, and you see the record is 4-4, and obviously James Madison. They had a tough go at that, but we saw what James Madison did versus Virginia just the other night. And so he's trying to coach his team to continue to get better, and that's what he's trying to do tonight.
They go to James, who's off the mark, but the follow is there. As Julian Phillips, a talented freshman out of South Carolina.
Much quicker lineup in the game right now. Olivier Nkamhoua can really play 1 through 5, and he's at the quote-unquote center position right now.
Devontae Blanton tried to lob it inside, and it's knocked away by Meshack. Beside Jordan James was out with a knee injury early in the season. He comes back. Vescovi goes out, still not at full strength. But good to have James and his length back on the floor. Rebound knocked out of bounds by Tennessee. A.W. Hamilton is in his 5th season as a head coach at Eastern Kentucky. He was a Kevin Keatts assistant at North Carolina State and longtime head coach at Hargrave Military Academy. Wasted no time, was the OVC Coach of the Year. He said, I'm the most blessed man in basketball. He's been through so much. Fought through his own cancer diagnosis, which is notable here during V Week. Had to deal with the death of his brother over the summer. But he's back home in Eastern Kentucky, where he grew up about 40 minutes from campus and has that family surrounding him through all of those challenges. Shot clock late. Cooper Robb challenge, and they will not get a shot off, taken away by Tennessee, and a shot clock violation.
What do you think Coach Rick Barnes said in that timeout? The good news is, if you're an Eastern Kentucky fan, is that what Tom just said about Coach Hamilton is displayed through his team, right? They're going to continue to fight. I watched a game where they were down 20 points against Georgia State, and it was amazing. You thought that game was over with. They were able to fight and claw their way back in for a victory.
They had a last-second buzzer beater from beyond midcourt to win it. Back-to-back turnovers for EKU, and then make it 3 in a row now. 2-on-1 break. Ziegler has it. He'll share it. Phillips will go to the free throw line.
Phillips turned into Dr. J, didn't he?
He tried to
take off from the SEC logo. Yeah. Listen, you can tell, though, but we've already seen Tennessee this year. We've seen the Tennessee that knocked off Kansas and that knocked off Butler, and I thought probably their most impressive game against Gonzaga. And we also saw the Tennessee team that got dominated from start to finish by Coach Tad Boyles in Colorado. And Coach Rick Barnes said something interesting. He said, it's really hard to win a game in the first 5 to 6 minutes, but you can lose a game in the first 5 or 6 minutes, and it's the reason why he called that timeout.
I feel the same thing about the broadcast.
How are we doing? Are we winning or losing?
We're winning so far.
Okay.
We started sideways, and we're in danger.
We got to land the
plane.
plane.
You brought us back. Phillips has 4 early. He was on the all-tournament team in Atlantis, and he's been one of the most efficient players to get to the free throw line, 3rd most in the SEC. That's a great sign for a freshman.
Yeah, and he's probably got, he and Nkamhoua the most potential. Maybe Josiah Jordan James as being that bucket getter when it comes late to postseason play.
Mid-range jumper off the front of the rim. Rebound by Eastern. Moreno pulled that one back, and now Comer will let it fly. Tayshawn Comer in and out. Comer part of a backcourt with Leland Walker, 2 best friends from Indianapolis. Gave Eastern 2 top recruits, and Cooper Robb is a Georgetown kid. Started his career at North Carolina Charlotte. He is tough. Took 2 stitches in the head coming off of a concussion last game against James Madison. The doctor said that it's going to take about 10 minutes for the numbing shot to work before it can stitch you up. He said, Doc, I don't have 10 minutes. Just go ahead, put him in the noggin, and he was right back out on the floor.
Was right on call. You see him obviously with the steal here, and right now the size differential is not really much between these 2 teams, with Coach Rick Barnes going to a smaller lineup.
Ziegler with the kick. Here's Nkamhoua. Nobody steps out in time. Offensive board, James. And that is an offensive foul. Josiah Jordan James commits his first. Slow start for Tennessee, trailing the Colonels of Eastern Kentucky by 1 at the first timeout. about Uros Plavsic?
Yeah, well, I think he's the silent assassin for this Tennessee team. They're undefeated with him in the lineup. Take a look here. He's the ultimate rebounder, right? Has good size, a 7'4" wingspan. I call him the enforcer because he brings toughness, but he's also a tremendous shot blocker. You see his ability to not only block shots, but alter shots. His standing reach, 9'4.75". He's also a solid screener. Coach Rick Barnes does a nice job of using screens off the ball where a lot of other coaches only screen on the ball. And he actually is a really good distributor. A lot of coaches like to put big guys in positions where they can make passes. Because of the off-the-ball screens, he does a nice job. And many times we call guards coaches on the floor, but I think he's a big that's a coach on the floor. He draws 1, 2, 3, 4 guys and gets the hockey assist here to get a phenomenal three-point shot from Santiago Vescovi, which caused Bill Self to call a timeout on that play. I think he's underrated, and I think he's extremely valuable for this Volunteer team.
59% from the floor for the big fella inside, who's the 6th 7-footer in Tennessee school history, the first since our buddy Steve Hamer played here in the early 90s.
At some point tonight, I do feel like that Tennessee will take advantage of the interior. Right now, they're playing more of the style of Eastern Kentucky. I think at some point, Tennessee takes advantage and they pound the basketball inside.
Eastern Kentucky now 3 for 10 from the floor. Tayshawn Comer is a freshman at a Cathedral High School in Indianapolis, one of the top point guards, and Jonas Aidoo wastes no time. And a step on the sideline for Michael Wardy and an Eastern turnover. I think Comer picks up a quick foul. So Tayshawn Comer was an Indianapolis Player of the Year coming out of Cathedral High School. He was recruited by Eastern, and one day he turned to A.W. Hamilton. He goes, "You know my best friend, Leland Walker, that 4-star guy that I played a lot with? Can we get him here?" And A.W. said, "Yeah, I think we can work that out." Walker had spent some time at Hargrave, where A.W. learned how to be a head coach. Tennessee turnover. Here's Rob in transition and a shove from John Yukamoto. And that's the first on the junior out of the Detroit area.
You know, when we asked Coach Hamilton, you know, what he learned at being at Hargrave, and he said, you know, I got a chance to work with phenomenal players. You think about the NBA guys that have come out of there, 113 Division I players. So he's seen and been able to evaluate quality talent, and that's helping him at Eastern Kentucky as well.
Had a pretty good one, Montrezl Harrell, now in the NBA after dominating in the ACC back when Louisville was good. Off the mark with that jumper. What's going on with Kenny Payne's team this year, Fish?
Well, I told somebody the other day, a lot of teams could have went to Maui and went 0-3. And Scott Nagy, obviously phenomenal coach over at Wright State, that's been to multiple NCAA tournaments, and then you come home against Miami and Maryland. But it's going to take time. He's got to get his players and his culture in. Louisville fans are going to have to be patient.
Tennessee turnover. Cards still winless. They got Kentucky later on this month. That is turnover number 5. Kenny, of course, was a longtime assistant under Cal at Kentucky before going to the Knicks. They lost their first, you could call it tough luck, their first 3 games of the season. They lost all 3, right? All by a single point.
And I think
that never before happened.
Yeah, the App State was the worst, where you had a shot that looked like it counted, and you think you have your first win and find out that doesn't count. But you just got to keep pushing through.
That was in and out. Tough luck for Eastern here early on. They're just 3 for 13 and 1 for 8 from deep.
Nice.
Inside, and Olivia Kamwa makes it go. Coming off a 20-point performance against Alcorn State. He was perfect, 7 for 7 from the free throw line. Yukamoto drives, has it rejected, and pulled down by the talented freshman Julian Phillips.
Yeah, with Aidoo and Plavsic, they've got 2 guys who can give them rim protection.
Adu's little jump hook was off the mark, and then a foul in the backcourt charge to Tyreek Key.
I love the opportunity here in the secondary break. It's before you have a chance to allow the weak side help to really get established. And once the primary break wasn't there, I thought it was a nice pass by Adu to the interior to Olivier Campbell.
Eastern had the early lead in this game, now trailing by deuce. They're just 1-36 all-time against SEC opponents. A lone win came against Auburn in 1955. Tennessee extending the pressure a little bit. Step back three, Leland Walker. He's just 1 for his last 12 now, and that includes a couple of games where he went 0 for 5. A better shooter than that, but is in a bit of a cold spell. Now Ziegler. Adu double. Nice pass out of it, and a kick wide open three. That leaves Adu open on the weak side, but he misses again from point blank range.
Not bad offense, though, that time by Tennessee.
Wing three, no, but a foul charged to Kamwa. And the Colonels will have 3 free throws coming their way after the break. The Colonels have missed their last 5. Had a chance to get some points from the free throw line when we return. Well, after 73 years in the Ohio Valley Conference, Eastern Kentucky left for the A-Sun a couple of years ago. And so far, their offense has been a big hit in the Atlantic Sun. First in the league in scoring, first with nearly 5 blocks a game. They lead the league in steals at nearly 10 a game, and second in rebounding. A.W. Hamilton wants a lot of possessions, and they play a style that usually gets that.
Well, you think about what he's done since he's been there already. You mentioned it earlier, the runs that he made with Kevin Keats at North Carolina State University, where they were able to knock off #2 Arizona and Duke and North Carolina. What a nice run that was with the Wolfpack. And he's got him a nice recruiting class in now, and he's just continuing to chip away, and he will get it. He will continue to build it. You think about the style that he plays, it makes it difficult because not everyone's playing that style. Matter of fact, many people do not play that style anymore because of the positionless basketball and so many people being able to handle the basketball, but they haven't given up on it and have had some success.
And to the free throw line goes Deshaun Jackson. He's from just up the road in Lexington at a Frederick Douglass High School, which is turned into a pipeline for Mark Stoops and the Kentucky football program. 3 guys on that roster from Frederick Douglass, including the fantastic freshman wide receiver Dane Key. Another one coming for Jackson. His mom played hoops at Indiana State. His dad played college ball at Lindsey Wilson, and his sister was a volleyball player in college. And Jackson's got another one coming after being fouled on a 3.
Even though they came up short in that loss to Western Kentucky, he had a career best at that time, 16 points. And you can just tell that style that we talked about, it is relentless by Eastern Kentucky. For 40 minutes, they're going to test every pass, every entry pass, every dribble. They want to be handsy, and they want to throw you off offensively. Pretty basketball.
Wow, that's a point-blank look for a Richmond native, Isaiah Cozart, who started his career at Western Kentucky. I get a chance to put the press on a little bit. Talking with Hamilton today, he said it's not necessarily about turnovers, but if our press is effective, it means you're not getting into your offense until late, and then we figure you just have to run a quick set, and we could force you into a bad look. Big-time block by Isaiah Cozart.
I actually love this for Tennessee because it prepares you for what you could potentially see in the NCAA tournament. You mentioned Isaiah Cozart and the job that he's done in 3 years at Western Kentucky from 2019 to 2022, and a veteran senior out of Richmond, Kentucky. But you think about if they were to face a Marquette in the NCAA tournament, or a team that's got St. John's and Mike Anderson. You know, this is great preparation. It shows their weaknesses.
How about Ziegler having the awareness to get that shot up? The end result is a foul by Jackson. Tennessee has made just 1 of its last 8. Now, Hamilton noted, like when he first got there, their pace was breakneck. It was the quickest tempo in all of college basketball. Last year they had to deal with a ton of injuries. This year they're trying to get some new guys accustomed to it, and with some young point guards, it takes a little while to have the trust to run the tempo.
Yeah, that's right. And the biggest objective, and I would say challenge for him when he gets his guys is them just being in condition and being able to do this for 40 minutes.
A big time three by Tyreke Key, Indiana State transfer. Key coming off of a 11-point performance against Alcorn. Ziegler with the takeaway. Push ahead. Kamwa, that was dangerous. Slipped just a little bit. And now Ziegler will reset. Well, he is a burst.
Good pass.
Key again. Plavsic kept that one alive for Phillips to find.
Seems like Key's one of those guys that just wants to make every single shot, as most people do. But Coach Rick Barnes wants him to be more aggressive and to take more shots.
Yeah, he was saying after the Alcorn game, he said he's got to recognize that when we run a play, especially if it's a play that's supposed to come to you, it's your job to shoot the basketball.
Right. I mean, is there any better information? You see him working with Coach or working with Julian Phillips there, just continuing to stay on it. I mean, yesterday in practice, he did not let his foot up off the gas pedal.
All right, I don't want you to give away state secrets, but just peel the curtain back a little bit for viewers who don't get a chance to watch a college basketball practice. I'm not talking about a shoot around where it's usually very casual, but the intensity in the practice in the middle of a season.
Sure. Well, he's just so detail-oriented, right? Whether it's a position that you're supposed to be in or a pass that should have been made from a different angle. And there's ultimate accountability. But as Coach Hamilton said, and he and Coach Barnes have that in common, it's because they care about their players.
Yeah.
And it's just like if you were in a family. Your family is going to hold you accountable because they care about you. And that's something that Coach Rick Barnes and Coach Hamilton both have in common.
Volunteers with a 3-point lead. They'll leave Friday for Brooklyn. Will take on Maryland as Ziegler commits a foul, and non-conference gets tougher the rest of the way. All the remainders are ranked teams.
Well, they'll get tested. Not only Maryland, but Arizona. Coach Kevin Willard doing a nice job. He's brought the same physical grit and toughness that he had at Seton Hall. I think they'll look at this tape and they'll get excited because they like to run 2-2-1 zone and match up. Scott's a shooter, Hakeem Hart. I think physical toughness, Dante Scott. And so you're right. Their schedule is going to turn up even more.
How do you know all those guys? Those aren't even SEC teams. How'd you pull that out?
Because they played last night. Took a tough loss to Wisconsin.
I thought you were watching my game from Arkansas.
Wow, what a game. Man, heart goes out to Trevin Brazile as well with that ACL injury for Arkansas.
He's out for the rest of the year. The Missouri transfer, you were so impressed with his athleticism that he flashed in Maui and being a key component to that team. Great on-ball defense that turns into a foul from Devontae Blanton.
He's the one guy you just can't afford to get in foul trouble, averaging 17, 18 points per game. He's a guy that's going to continue to have to manufacture points, and because of his ability to manufacture points, he allows other players to play off of him much better. I like this switch to the matchup zone just to throw Tennessee off a little bit now that they've been pressuring.
Extra pass, open three for Phillips. That's an air ball, but look who's there. Uroš Plavsic. You get featured by Damian Fishback, you're going to have a big moment.
Man, checks in the mail, Tom Hart. He is the enforcer, though. He knows how to win, and that was anybody's rebound, but he uses that wingspan, he positions. A lot of times we talk about basketball IQs with guards. I think he's got one of the better basketball IQs of any bigs in college basketball.
He was perfect from the floor in the Alcorn game, 6 for 6. Pumped in a dozen points. He's got 3 here early on. Tennessee leads by 4.
You know what they're saying in Serbia right now?
What's that?
Dobro, bratic, dobro.
What's dobro?
Just good job, brother. Good job.
All right.
Does that phrase Does that qualify me for speaking that language?
Yeah. Contested drive will result in a foul on Deshaun Jackson. That's his second. Have you spent some time over there?
I did. Incredible food, nice people, great country, and they love their hoops over there. Hoops, coffee, and that's all I can say on air.
Well, I'm ready to book my ticket. We got a doubleheader for you on Saturday. Oscar Tshiebwe and 16th ranked Kentucky play host to Yale at 1 at Rupp. Then 6-2 Ole Miss takes on Valpo at the Pavilion, looking to get back on track after starting the season 6-0. Should be a great afternoon of hoops. How about Kermit Davis's team after being besieged by injuries last year? Got off to a great start this year.
Yeah, I thought that tough loss at Memphis. Deshaun Ruffin inserted back into the lineup. They need to continue to get him healthy, but I think it's the deepest team that Coach Kermit Davis has had at Ole Miss. I like their team.
Hold on a second. How many SEC teams is Penny going to play this year? He's Ole Miss. I think he's got Auburn
in
coming
Atlanta
up this weekend.
Yeah.
And then I got their game at Alabama next Tuesday.
Already
Is
went to
Penny
Vanderbilt.
trying to win an SEC title? It's not allowed. That's not how it works.
Well, they've got a nice squad again. Kendrick Davis, one of the best point guards in the country, transferred from SMU. Keep your eyes on that young guard. It's almost like Tennessee's got settled in here, don't you think? They're doing what we talked about, using their size on the interior.
How come they get to wear quarter zips and we can't? Who do we talk to? Can we be cash? I mean, Joey Stats over here. He's casual. It's good enough for Peyton on Monday Night Football, right? Comer knocks down another free throw, rated the 40th best point guard coming out of high school. They're going to trap Ziegler in the backcourt. Easier said than done. And it turns into an advantage for Tennessee. And we got a jump ball. It'll be Tennessee basketball.
Well, Zakai Ziegler on this play, he was slowing down, and a lot of times offensive players will do that, especially if you're a smaller guard, to get the defender to kind of run over you and get a foul.
Yeah.
Well, that was the wrong decision in this particular situation because it allowed Eastern Kentucky to trap him.
I would tell you something that happened when we were running that replay. Uroš Plavšić called this baseline out of bounds play. He looked over to Barnes. He flashed the number he wanted to run and gave him a hand signal. And Rick Barnes looked at him and just nodded. Said, "Yeah, go ahead, let's run that." To your point, here's a Naismith National Coach of the Year.
Yeah.
And the trust that he has in Plavšić, a guy who's been in his system, to know what the right play is.
You know, we ought to have a surprise for our viewers and have somebody that played for Coach Barnes before tell stories like that. You think we can get that done, Tom?
Might be SEC after dark, but yeah, we could.
Maybe bring him on in the second half.
You know,
somebody else that's played for Coach Barnes, maybe.
That's a great idea. We're going to get somebody.
Can you pull that off?
Whether they played at Tennessee or Texas or Clemson or Providence or a teammate at Lenoir-Rhyne, whatever it was, I feel like to get the most information about Rick Barnes, it's got to be a point guard. You agree?
Got to be a point guard.
Comer got by Ziegler off the window and a flex. Comer's got a half dozen. You know, a guy like Tayshawn Comer embraces playing in this atmosphere and the challenge of going against a guy like Zakai Ziegler.
Absolutely. Well, and right now, Zakai he's playing with the defense too much. He's fast enough where he can just go through it. And speaking of go through it, Tayshawn, I see you, Tay. Mr. Comer just knocking down off the window with a beautiful finish. We got action.
From Rocky Top, we were caroling during the break, and Tennessee with a 3-point lead. Volunteers have gone a little cold. They've made just 2 of their last 10 shots. What's Eastern doing on the defensive end?
Well, we talked about Tennessee's lack of offensive efficiency at times being a challenge, and right now Tennessee's just trying to figure out the best way to score against this defense. The answer to your question is they're changing defenses. They're pressuring them in the full court, making Tennessee play 94 feet. You don't have a guy like Santiago Vescovi in the game right now, so that's one less threat that they typically would have in the transition break to knock down three-point shots and to make correct passes.
Yeah.
And then they're switching it up and going zone at times too. Right now they're in a 1-2-2 kind of three-quarter court pressure, but still trapping out of it.
Neither team shooting the ball well from deep. A combined 3 for 20 reminds me of the start I saw last night in Fayetteville, where Arkansas was held to just 21 points in the first half, and UNC Greensboro nearly pulled off their first ever top 25 win.
Yeah, I thought that was impressive by UNC Greensboro, but equally impressive by Arkansas, because when you had Trevor Brazile go down, Nick Smith Jr. just now getting back into the flow, they found a way to win.
Folks in the SEC are going to love watching Nick Smith Jr.
Whew.
I guess if you're an Arkansas fan, I mean, he is going to be the next great superstar out of this league. Josiah Jordan-James with the turnaround. Think they like that look against the zone? The 15-footer?
They don't mind it. Plavsic on the particular play giving them another opportunity with an offensive rebound. I just think Tennessee's got to. You see they're dominating on the offensive boards, so that's a sign. I just think they need to force the basketball inside, use their size, and be dominant on the interior.
Eastern at 26% from the floor. Tennessee just 20%. James jumps the passing lane and will go to the free throw line. Tennessee third in the country in steals. It's a 10th foul on Eastern, so ball's in the double bonus with 6:56 left in the half. And Devontae Blanton, who's been magnificent for them all season, but especially over the last 4 games, giving them 21 points a game, picks up his second.
And one thing Tennessee's really good about is turning your water off if you're the best player on the other team. You look at Wilson and his struggles when they played against Kansas. If you're the best player on the other team, you better be prepared for a tough night when you play against the Tennessee Volunteers.
Yeah, both Jalen Wilson and Grady Dick had tough shooting nights, and they've been great for Kansas all year. Jayhawks were held to just 50 points. It's the lowest total for a Kansas basketball team since November of 2014.
Whew.
It'll be a big one this weekend, by the way, in Columbia, Missouri. They'll reignite the border war. Mizzou and Kansas on ESPN.
How about the Tigers, one of the last to be undefeated in college basketball?
We got 12 undefeateds, right? And Missouri leading the SEC in scoring. They play a fun brand of basketball. Another miss for Tennessee. Neither team has led this game by more than 5. It's just been kind of stuck in first gear. Fish, when's the last time you drove a stick shift?
It's been a while.
Blocking
Actually took my driver's test in a stick shift.
Well, that's bold.
Tell me what you're thinking.
That is bold.
Maybe that's why I failed it 2 or 3 times. Those rolling stops, but hey, who cares? You get it, right?
I feel like you should be graded on a curve if you take it on a stick
doubt.
shift.
Well, hitting the car the second time didn't work out well
You
either.
hit a car during your driver's
But you know, it was parallel parking, and once I hit the car, I just lightly touched it, and so they said, "You did so good. You know, I hate to fail you, but you hit a car." Third time was charmed, though.
Well, they do say, you know, it is
You
a
had to laugh
test.
that hard, Tom.
It is a driver's test. And they don't want it to be easy. Key from deep. And the Tennessee struggles continue. 2 for 13 from 3.
And we've seen this show before when Tennessee settles from behind the three-point line. Now, they're getting wide open looks, but sometimes even when you're getting those looks, you got to be more patient and try to get it on the interior just because you're bigger, better, and stronger in the paint area.
Adu and Key are the only Volunteers who have made a 3. Here's a deep one from Blanton. That was way off. And then there's the other side of the coin. Sometimes, as coaches will tell you, son, there's a reason you're so wide open. Plavsic looking to pass. Gives it up to James for a 10-footer. And Plavsic picks it up.
Telling you, under the radar, he's that guy. You watch him in the Gonzaga exhibition game. You watch him in big games. He's a difference maker.
Timeout taken by Eastern. Largest lead of the game for Tennessee.
Yeah, well, you see Euros here had 13 points, 4 assists in an exhibition game against Drew Timme in Gonzaga. I think he's going to have to play a huge role as they face the likes of an Arizona as well.
I understand what you were saying earlier about him being a guy who could move the ball around. But when that possession started, he was guarded by a 6'7", 200-pound post player.
Sure.
Why not just power dribble and dunk on the dude? Or just be a little bit more aggressive on your own?
Well, I think at times he becomes too unselfish. You know, we call him the enforcer because I think he's a tremendous teammate. But at times, yeah, his team needs him. Just like Coach Rick Barnes is talking to Key, they need him to be a little bit more selfish. If you can go and score on the interior because you're bigger, stronger, and better, then go do that. That's something that will occur as the season goes on.
He's a big physical player, 7 feet tall, 250 pounds. I like the enforcer. We don't have a whole lot more of those in college basketball. There's a lot of really nice players out there.
No Bill Lambiers.
No, he could be playing in the 80s, in the early 90s. That style played back then. A good matchup with he and Isaiah Kozart, who's going to be a load to handle in the A-Sun this year. Plavsic gets switched out, guarding the 6'7" Moreno, and now picks up the point guard. Here's Moreno for 3. Well, if you can switch 1 through 5 defensively, that's one of the reasons Tennessee's the #1 defensive efficiency team in the country. There's Plavsic inside. He's kind of lost his lift on the entry. Here's Moreno.
You got to dunk that one. That's one he wishes he could have back. But he heard you from over here, Tom Hart. He went and scored on the, or tried to score on the interior. And sometimes, and you see upsets in college basketball all over the place, sometimes you just feel like it's a matter of time before we beat this team. And the focus isn't quite there. I think this is a combination of Eastern Kentucky playing well into their style and Tennessee still not feeling like that Eastern Kentucky can beat them.
Listen, Uroš Plavsic is a tough dude. Basketball's easy when it comes to toughness. Turned over. EKU's gone 3.5 minutes without a bucket. Thought Key was going to pull a Forrest Gump and just run all the way out the tunnel, or Bo Jackson.
Oh, man. Tom No Filter Hart. It's your new nickname, Tom. I love it. Something else Tennessee really hasn't done enough of is create offense off of their defense in this game. And it's amazing against quality teams how close you can keep the score if you simply get good looks at the basket without turning it over.
Great point. And A.W. Hamilton said just that this afternoon. He said, listen, there's no secret to great basketball. We're talking about UNCG's near upset last night at Arkansas. Just get good shots. Hard to get good shots against this Tennessee defense night in and night out. They've won 3 straight games by an average of 21 points a game and beat Alcorn by 54 last time out. But the Colonels of Eastern Kentucky from up in Richmond off 75 are hanging in, trailing by a half dozen.
Coming up at halftime, we've got Drea, the point guard, and Pat Bradley, the shooter. We're going to talk a little SEC freshman on the hardwood. We'll give out some hardware on the football field. But for now, PB, what are you seeing in the first half?
Well, I got a question for Tom Hart. What's more challenging, Fishback's parallel parking abilities or Eastern Kentucky shooting from a three-point line? 7% right now.
Back to y'all.
Shooter, that's a great question. I mean, EKU is 1 for 14 from 3, but they put no dents in any Pontiac so far. Like, no harm, no foul, and they have a chance to learn, just like you eventually learned how to parallel park.
Yeah, thank you, because I didn't hear what he said until the parallel park. There we go. You know, the shooter's going to shoot shots, and I'm sitting here wondering who would win, even though Drea was a point guard. If you got to shoot off right now in their current state, who wins? 10 shots behind the three-point line.
Listen, it's like a boxing match, all right? It doesn't matter how tough you think you are. Once it turns into a cardio competition, Dre is running laps around it. Mashek's got another free throw coming his way.
Oh, man, T-Hart. That's good. Important.
Well, you know, for Pat Bradley, Orange Theory is what he thinks Rick Barnes' coaching style is.
Oh, I'm glad we opened it up.
We kid because we care, right?
We kid because we care.
Eastern has 3 turnovers in the last 4 minutes, 0 for their last 5. Kozart off the mark with the jump hook. He was the Kentucky Gatorade Player of the Year at Madison Central. Were you the Player of the Year in Kentucky back in your high school playing
They
days?
voted me as that, but you know, politics and everything. I took it, though. I take the accolade.
A.W. Hamilton remembered you. He was a freshman at Scott County High School. You were out there filling up. I think his point was because he was a freshman, he wasn't on the floor. He didn't have to try and guard Damian Fishback.
Look at him. He's still in great shape. How about that? You spoke about cardio.
That was a first on Leland Walker. And
young man's aging like fine wine.
This dude.
Look at that. Finger roll.
And then went to Wake Forest. We played for Skip Prosser before transferring on to Marshall, where they had the baggy shorts.
We all had the baggy shorts back then.
Thanks to the Fab Five. That was cooler than cool. 10-4 Tennessee run.
And this is what Tennessee does to you. You think about the Virginias, the Villanovas.
Walker banks it in.
They kind of just continue to try to stretch that lead.
There's a trap at midcourt. Key gets it. Good ball movement, but Adu and Kama weren't on the same page. Here's a Tennessee team that last time outfished assisted on 27 of their 33 buckets. That is an inconceivable stat.
Well, it shows the culture, right? Coach Hamilton said something interesting. He said, I think this team for Tennessee exemplifies the personality of Coach Rick Barnes more than any of his other teams. They're unselfish, they're disciplined, they're hardworking, they're deep, they're talented, but they do go through scoring droughts.
Luckily, they got the defense to shut others down. Last 5 halves, Tennessee has held the opponent to 4 of 47 from deep. That's a .085%. Ziegler commits his second.
Well, they say defense travels, and we talked about their upcoming schedule a little bit. It had better travel as they face Maryland and Arizona.
Maryland in Brooklyn. And then on the road out in Tucson. That Arizona team came here last year loaded with future NBA players. What a great job by Tommy Lloyd, and Josiah Jordan-James replaces Meshack.
You know, Walker rated as a top 40 point guard, ranked 39th best point guard in the nation following his season last year at Hargrave Military Academy. I think he's got a nice upside. I can't wait to see how he continues to expand his game as they get closer to ASUN play.
The first 4-star ever to sign with Eastern. He was the 39th ranked point guard, and his good buddy Tayshawn Comer was the 40th ranked point guard.
Well, and one thing I like about him is what you want in the point guard position. And I remember being at Billy Donovan's practice one year when he was at Florida.
How old are you?
Oh, I'm 36. You know, at least that's what I'm going to tell everybody. That's a good median number.
That's right.
But when I was at the practice, Billy Donovan, he kept saying something that always stuck with me. You have to have someone who has the ability to put the defense at a disadvantage. And candidly, that's something that Tennessee struggles with at some times. You know, somebody that gets by the defense and puts the defense into rotation.
Do you think they miss Kennedy Chandler in that regard?
Absolutely. When you had 2 guys who could do that last year in both him and Zakai.
Here's Key open from the wing. And the big-time offensive board and a putback by Phillips.
And that's where Tennessee's dominating right now. 13 offensive rebounds. They have 14 points off of those rebounds.
Kama with the block, and then a mistake push from Yukamata.
This is what you call a soft miss, right? And as a shooter, even when you miss, if it's soft, you give your teammates a chance to rebound.
Yeah. Otherwise, it clangs off the back iron.
No
and ends
doubt.
up 20 feet away. So Phillips, freshman, And of Blythewood, South Carolina, played a year at Link Academy in Missouri, McDonald's All-American. At 25 in Atlantis against USC. Ukamadu, by the way, picked up his third, so he'll sit the rest.
Yeah, Julian Phillips, I noticed at practice yesterday where I think he can have a sweet spot, and he loves the mid-range game. Still struggling from behind the three-point line.
Yeah, just 3 of 16.
But he can live from the mid-range game. He's athletic enough. His shot is good enough, and he's going to shoot it much better from the three-point line. Just got to get confidence and get better looks.
Moreno saw Tom Sokoviak open, so he wanted to feed him. Best SID in the business. Rick Barnes has a scouting report even on his SID, doesn't he?
Rick Barnes has a scouting report on everybody that steps foot in the arena. Including you, right? What was his statement? What are you doing with all that money you're making, Tom Hart?
Right.
He wanted to know the scouting report on you.
Apparently, he didn't know I was on a 6 a.m. out of Fayetteville this morning. Good finish by Kamwa.
Did it leave on time?
Left early, got here early.
Ooh, that's all that matters. You had a great day.
Simple things in life, right, Fish?
No doubt.
Volunteers only shooting 24% in this game.
Yeah, danger zone for Eastern Kentucky right now. You mentioned their struggles shooting. I don't expect that to last for the entire game, and the Volunteers now continuing to stretch this lead.
That's an offensive foul on Phillips. It's his second. Yet, to your point, Eastern 2 for 16 from 3. But they had Leland Walker waiting to take that charge.
Yeah, and we actually talked about that with Coach Barnes, that blocking charge call, still the most challenging play to call for officials today. And it continues to change, whether you're in legal guarding position, whether you have to be stationary. Still one of the hardest plays to call in college basketball.
Now Barnes, head of the rules committee, he said he'd love to see the lane widen, and that would make the block charge call easier. Yeah, that would come, I would assume, with an enlarged restricted arc, as they have in the NBA.
Eastern Kentucky rushing it a little bit right now, playing too fast.
Just like you rushed parallel parking. That's what Pat Bradley said.
Oh, man.
Which was uglier
than
their shooting
you can't
or
tell
your
anything.
parallel.
I thought we were going for transparency here. It's supposed to be a family conversation, man.
10 turnovers for Eastern. Truth tree. It's just us here.
Obviously, Tennessee wanting to try to get the last shot, not to allow Eastern Kentucky much momentum. They have to go a little bit faster, though, against this matchup zone.
Ball's getting stagnant. Clock now at 2. And James fires a contested 3. Rebound. Kamwa couldn't get a handle on it. 1 second left. And the heave. Just wide. You know what is more interesting than this first half?
What's that?
Pat Bradley's pocket square. I can't even see it, and I guarantee you it's got more action than this one. 32-21. Drea, save us, please. Look at the first half highlights.
Well, we promised a style to be remembered. Fast as 40. That's what Coach Hamilton told us today. And you saw that from Eastern Kentucky. They were relentless on the defensive end. He wanted his hands in there, and they definitely did that. So Tennessee struggled from the field. But what they did not struggle doing was offensively rebounding. They attacked the glass with a relentless mindset. They used their size on the interior. Multiple weapons showed you that whether it's defense to offense or offensive rebound, when the shot's not going down, they can find a way to win.
If this Eastern team can play with half of the confidence of the inebriated Eastern fan that we saw in the men's room at halftime, they're going to win this thing by 70. Just 2 of 17 from 3. The offense for Tennessee, not great. Fish, they got looks at the rim. They're just 6 for 13 on layups. They didn't have a single dunk in the first half with a huge size advantage. It's scoring just 0.842 points per possession. On the EKU side, thanks to 9 turnovers and poor shooting, they only scored on 10 of 37 possessions.
Yeah, well, right now, obviously, these first 5 minutes are always crucial in the game, and you can tell by the body language of Tennessee, they're trying to turn up the pressure a lot more.
Yeah, Meshack does just that, and it turns into a foul on Cooper Robb, and he commits his third. 3 seconds in, you can feel it for the Scott County product, they're going to leave him in the game. He said, I'm a veteran. I'm smart enough not to pick up my fourth. But he had to sit for a good chunk of the first half with 2. Last 8 minutes of the half, Eastern was just 1 of 10. Tennessee was just 3 of 12. And if I'm Tennessee, I go right after Cooper Robb. Whoa! Tyreek Key with the bucket and a foul on the big man, Isaiah Kozar.
That's what we call 45, 50-year-old basketball. Grown man. Look at it. Watch the shot fake, and then look how he jumps.
Under?
Jumps into him, draws the contact. That's that old guy that's coming to the playground. He takes off his dress socks, puts on some tennis shoes, and just goes to work. That's key. Not going to impress you with a ton of athleticism, but he's going to win.
Tyreek Key makes it a 3-point play. That's a Sunday afternoon YMCA game. Guy doesn't even have a membership. He just slides in the back door and says, I got next. Rob with the slip. He's had a frustrating night. Good ball movement. Rebound tracked down by Comwell. Up ahead, intercepted. Michael Moreno got it back. Moreno wants it. He'll trigger it. This is a wide open system that A.W. Hamilton runs, and you got to think from a recruiting standpoint, there's a lot of kids would love to get up and down the floor, play with this tempo.
Yeah, not only the tempo, but you're going to get an opportunity to play. He plays a ton of guys.
Tyreek Key off the mark. They shoot a ton of threes. Just haven't been falling. Last year, 3rd in the nation in 3-point attempts. Moreno at a Scott County High School picks up his 2nd. 3-time All-State Kentucky Mr. Basketball finalist. He scored over 2,800 points in his high school career. All right, for the folks that don't know, Scott County in Kentucky is a high school powerhouse. In Moreno's time there, they went 132-18. Were they that good when you were playing Kentucky high school basketball?
It varied from season to season, right?
Yep.
But the one thing when somebody plays Kentucky basketball is that they know the game. It's prioritized like football is in the South. And so that's one of the reasons why Coach Hamilton knows the game. You think about when Coach Rick Pitino was at Kentucky, when both he and I were coming up. You think about that style and system he played. He is, quote unquote, a basketball junkie.
Yeah, they won the state championship when he was at Scott County in '98. Runners up in '99. Blanton drives, has it redirected, but he's going to get a foul call. And if that's on Phillips, it is. That's his 3rd.
I was interested to see if he was actually shooting that.
You think it was going to be a pass?
At the last second. I think it's a good call. Yeah.
The officials got together.
I think he switched at the last second to go towards a pass versus a shot. Now, it could have been altered by the foul, and that's what I would be saying if I was Coach Hamilton and Blanton as well. Let's see. Shot there. No. Looks like it's a shot. Just got hit on the arm. Tough break for Eastern Kentucky.
Hey, did you figure out if we're going to talk to one of Barnes' former players?
Got a surprise for you. You got to hang around though.
Do you want a hit?
Right about the 12-minute mark.
How about a first-round point guard? What that? Good.
Early Christmas present for you.
Volunteers by 16.
I like the movement right now by Tennessee a little bit more. Now they got good man movement. There's that cut that time by Key. Pretty basketball.
He's got 9. Plavcic picks up his 2nd assist on that play. With the shift in what the NBA thinks of big men and the opportunity to earn money when you're in college. And we've seen a reinvention of the 5 position. Another 3 for Key. That's his second of the game. The lead is 12. Not only do we get better big men, but like Uros Plavsic, we get better passing big men in the game now.
I would agree wholeheartedly. And right now, Eastern Kentucky says, hold that thought, Tom Hart. We're going to take a timeout. Down 21. Tennessee winning big.
Let's jump in the time machine for the first ever tournament win for the Tennessee Volunteers. Came against Eastern. It was a 97-81 victory. This was the News Sentinel back in March of 1979. And Don DeVoe said, I doubt Tennessee's ever played a game as important as the one we'll play Sunday. That was with Notre Dame on deck for that Tennessee team. Look at the blocks that this team had. Buckets inside. And, oh, by the way, Burt Bertelkamp is in the building tonight, of course, working with Bob Kessling on the Ball Network. He was on that team. There he is.
Ooh, look at the hair.
Grew up in Knoxville, went to the same barber all the way through college, and said I didn't need to see him much in college. I just kind of let it go a little bit. Why not? That Tennessee team won the 1979 SEC tournament. They beat Kentucky 3 times. And UT didn't win the tournament again until last year. Bob Kessling on the left, Burt on the right. And Rick Barnes presented them with their SEC championship rings today.
Yeah, I thought that was awesome. First class by Coach Rick Barnes. Both. Not only it exemplifies what Coach Rick Barnes, but I think what the Tennessee Volunteers, how about a year that they had in football and basketball, and certainly in an upward trajectory in all sports here at Tennessee.
Number 1 baseball team in the country. And by the way, second in the country in combined attendance for basketball between men's and women's. 5th in the country overall in men's attendance at 16,722 a game. And we're not even in conference play yet. Rob for 3. Nope. Rebound fought for. That is a man-sized rebound by Isaiah Kozar.
Yeah, he went right at the enforcer that time. 6'7", 240-pound senior out of Richmond, Kentucky. Breaks a 10-0 run that Tennessee was on also.
Yeah, first bucket of the second half for Eastern. Comer and Ziegler being separated.
And it's actually Kamwa and Plavsic kind of battling for that rebound. Again, we remind you that Eastern Kentucky, down 20 points in the Georgia State game, did not give up, able to come back and win a half-court shot at the buzzer. So one thing you'll know about Coach Hamilton's teams is that they will not quit. They'll continue to press. They'll continue to fight.
And now Rob gets whistled for his 4th. He can't believe it. It was Ziegler cutting through and a technical on A.W. Hamilton. And with all due respect to Coach Hamilton, he's trying to stick up for his guy.
Absolutely.
Rob, who's got some tough, I'm not saying they're all bad, but tough whistles tonight.
And as a player, that's one thing you love about your coach is when they continue to stand up for you.
And put Key at the free throw line. Here's where he got whistled for the foul. And Rob's thinking that should be the guard version of a hook and hold that he got clamped down on.
That's definitely a tough break.
Had a great visit with Cooper today. He was All-State basketball, football, and baseball at Scott County High School. Won the Wawa Jones Award. One of the most versatile athletes in the state. He ran the wing T offense in football. Oh! Up above the rim.
That was worth the price of admission. Wakes this crowd up a little bit too.
Walker off the feed from his buddy. That's off the mark. And Kamwa knocked it out of bounds.
You know, it's almost like you get one of these in every game from Coach Rick Barnes on an out-of-bounds set and a nice screen that we talked about by Plavsic that allows Olivier Kamwa to get open for that dunk. what Coach Andy Kennedy call them? The specialties of
the special teams.
The special teams. You're such a good point guard, man.
Yeah.
You saw I was hurting there. You just lifted me up. I appreciate that.
Just like me, I know what it's like to get stuck in a mental cul-de-sac. Please, somebody find me an off-ramp. Here's an on-ramp for Kamwa, up above the rim with the jam.
Hi.
Research. For more information, visit ESPN.com/VWeek. What a great moment last night with Dickie V, and Dan Schulman, and all the money raised thanks to the V Foundation last night, and everyone is impacted. A.W. Hamilton a couple of years ago was implored to go get a physical. He hadn't had one since he played at Marshall because his brother-in-law and assistant coach Steve Laporte had a health scare. So he went into the doctor and said, oh yeah, I've got this mole behind my ear. They find out it's melanoma that had run in the family, and he said, I have to sit and wait and find out my diagnosis, and it's going to take a long time. He said, I was so blessed to be home in Eastern Kentucky, to be surrounded by family, to have that support staff nearby, to go through such a stressful and traumatic process.
I thought his perception was overall just breathtaking, and everything that you mentioned, as well as the V Foundation, right? You think about ESPN and being the leader in worldwide of sports, but the job that Coach Valvano did, you think about Stuart Scott, you think about those speeches, never giving up, the money that has been raised, that's a legacy as much of ESPN as well.
Dickie V deserves so much credit for that. Leland Walker has one more coming, and our company to give him the platform and support to continue to use him as the face of it, especially after his own battles. Walker has 8.
So we see a little different pressure now. This is a 2-2-1, but still looking to be aggressive, but they really want to. They don't want that. That's how you attack the press.
Tennessee in its shoot-around today knew that they could take advantage of the soft spots in the zone, and those soft spots would happen near the rim with their bigs.
You know, what's impressive is that they worked on this in practice, and it didn't start out looking this good. But what Coach Rick Barnes did amidst the practice was he changed their mindset. He changed them from being timid and passive to being aggressive and wanting to attack the pressure.
That is a 3rd assist for Plavsic. Ziegler draws a double. Oh, Kama was waiting to set a screen. Key for 3. And a rebound to Eastern. This is Tayshawn Comer. Gives it up.
Nice.
Great transition bucket by Devontae Blanton. He's their leading scorer, Fish. That's his first field goal of the night. And then Ziegler draws the push on Comer. That's his 3rd.
Well, defensively, that's a given when you face the Tennessee Volunteers, and so you have to be prepared when you face them offensively. You know, if you're just running ball screens or just passing the basketball, trying to use a dribble drive, it's going to be tough to get by the Volunteers.
Turner Buttrey checks in when Rob picked up that foul on Ziegler's cut a few minutes ago. That was his 5th. The technical was his 5th. I thought Hamilton had picked up the technical. Well, Zakai should have a good homecoming as the team departs for Brooklyn on Friday. Have you been to the Nets practice facility? That's usually where they'll get a chance to practice.
I have not. Tell me about it.
It has a stunning view of Manhattan. Floor-to-ceiling windows on one side of the gym. It's up on about the 8th floor in the warehouse district in Brooklyn. There's a finish by Blanton. He's got back-to-back buckets. He'll take your breath away. I've never seen a view like that out of a gym. Here's Adu with the left.
I didn't know you were a New York type of guy, Tom.
It's concrete jungle where dreams are made of.
Okay,
I mean, some have Sinatra, others have.
That's really good. A little cold for me, though.
Leland Walker trying to shake Meshack. Left his feet. Shot clock at 6. Blanton spins. He's starting to feel it a little bit.
Pretty basketball.
You sure?
Good look. You Coach Hamilton, you don't mind that. This is the end where they have to do a better job. Right now, Tennessee's showing us that offensive efficiency is improving in the second half.
Rebound by Kozar. Set a Kentucky prep record with 716 blocks in his high school career. You got to be active to put up those numbers. James commits his 3rd personal.
You know, we talked about health being one of the critical components for Tennessee in winning a national championship. Let's remember in this game, as we judge the offensive efficiency of the Tennessee Volunteers, they have yet to be really whole and complete. Josiah Jordan-James out, Plavsic out, Vescovi out. I think once this team gets together, their offense will start clicking much better.
I got a health story that's going to warm your heart, and SEC fans may have lost track of this, but Keontae Johnson, who collapsed for Florida in a game against Florida State a few years ago and wasn't allowed to return to the floor at Florida after being the preseason SEC Player of the Year, is back. And he's playing for Kansas State. He's averaging 18 points, 6 boards, shooting 50% from 3. He missed 2 years with that heart issue.
Yep.
And last time we saw him, he was always in great spirits, but he was at shoot-around and sweatpants and flip-flops, just kind of getting up some shots. That's all he was limited to. So great to see him back on the floor, back in good health.
Absolutely. You think about the patience that he had to exemplify and the poise and just the courage that it takes to get back out on that floor. It's simply sensational.
Key's not got another free throw coming.
I think he actually is the one that, if I'm not mistaken, made the last-second shot to beat LSU. Give LSU their only loss this season, too.
How about that? Have you seen Mississippi State yet this year?
Whew, have I? Coach Jan's in the building.
There's Leland Walker with the pull-up. He's in double figures. What has Mississippi State shown you so far through the non-conference that you think they can continue to cash in on during conference play?
Sure. We're talking about the defense of Tennessee right now, the defense of Mississippi State, and the culture that Coach Jans has built in a very short period of time has been nothing less than sensational. The way that Tolu Smith, by the way, Western Kentucky transfer, is healthy. He's playing that way. When I traveled around to see those guys practice, I thought Mississippi State was as athletic as anyone in the Southeastern Conference. They do struggle to shoot from the perimeter, but when they make shots, they can compete with anybody in the country.
They get some dudes who can play above the rim, right? Ziegler at the free throw line, 77% on the season. Product of Immaculate Conception, Long Island. Tennessee's had some great ones from New York. How about Ernie and Bernie? Tobias Harris, Kevin Punter. That guy could score. Yukamato left his feet, and he commits another. That is number 4 for Yukamato.
I feel like it's getting time, Tom.
Time for what?
Time for us to, talk about the guy, right? You talk about all the great point guards. Coach Rick Barnes has had phenomenal point guards over his career. You got to have, right, quality coaches on the floor.
Yeah.
And one of the best ones that he has had is coming to sit down with us after the break. We'll let you guess which one it's going to be off of this list.
Well, it's
here.
not Ziegler, and Kennedy's probably busy, so we can probably scratch those guys off, right?
A, B, or C. A, B, C, or D, huh?
Yeah. I always, pretty good ACT score for a guy that didn't study. I always went with C. I don't know if that's right in this instance, but
It was C. I think it switched to B now. This is much better offense Don't know if he called that off the glass, but it looked good.
Banked it in. Well, you mentioned the first half, the upside for Jonas Aidoo is just next level, right? 6'11".
Yeah, I think the combination of both him and Plavsic actually give each other versatility in different ways. Jonas is much faster when it comes to rim running, shoots it better from the perimeter. Plavsic is much better on the interior, stronger, more physical.
James offers the screen, and Key lost it on the way in. A Tom Amansky video this is not, especially on the offensive end. Volunteers at 32%, Eastern at 22%. Combined 5 for 43 from three-point land.
We mentioned teams like Jay Wright's Villanova teams that won national championships. And Virginia and Coach Tony Bennett, when you get behind those teams, it's so hard to come back. And that's what Tennessee reminds me of.
Buttrick commits his third personal foul. It's a 55-31 lead. Coming up, we'll talk guard play with Rick Barnes. Introduce you to one of his former greats, a first rounder that wore the orange, the burnt orange variety, after this. Hey, welcome back, Tennessee, with a 24-point lead. We promised you one of Rick Barnes' great point guards. He's had so many of them. First-round pick TJ Ford from Texas, Big 12 freshman of the year, led the nation in assists your freshman year. What was your transition like? You were so good right off the bat, going from high school to play for a very demanding coach in Rick Barnes.
Well, I came into college. I came in hurt with an injury with my spinal stenosis, where I discovered that I had this health problem. So I think when it came to me coming to college during the summertime, I didn't really get to work out. I was doing a lot of testing, but it just allowed me to take a lot of time to really watch the players on our team and really just continue to, really have to trust Coach Barnes, because we was doing some major, going through seeing doctors and trying to see, because I was supposed to have surgery, and part of that story is I probably called him about 12 o'clock at night and told him I felt like I was healthy, and he just said, okay. I wasn't expecting that. College, it was a major transition for me, being in Texas, having the hype of changing the program, and but that's what I wanted. And Coach Barnes had a vision when he came to my home, and what we could do at the University of Texas at that time, and we was able to accomplish that.
Was he as challenging then as we see him now? I feel like he was probably more challenging one-on-one, and I don't want to say he's softened over the years, but he's always been a very intense coach, and as a younger coach, even more so.
Well, I mean, bit seeing it tonight, his principles are still the same. He's going to be demanding defensively. He's still going to want you to do all the things that goes into winning, not turn the ball over, being able to rebound, being physical. So that nature of his style, after 30-plus years of still doing it, man, he still got the same energy, the same passion, and still getting the best out of all of his players.
Now, there was a time that he told me about a story where you actually were giving him some advice during the game. Tell us about that story. What happened?
Well, one of the main stories, man, we was playing Oklahoma his senior night, and Oklahoma was a tough matchup for us. So they really was difficult. Final Four championship type team, and when we really think about it, man, Brian Boddicker we was struggling, but I needed a guy that could pick and pop.
Yeah.
And I just told him, man, you got to put him back in. He's like, you got to be kidding me. There's no way I'll put him in. I was like, I guess you don't want to win. And he put Boddicker back in, man, in the second half. And he came right off the bench, man, hit a big-time 3 for us, and that gave me momentum, because I knew what I needed to be able to attack to win that game, and I knew I had to go score the basketball the last, 10, 12 minutes of the game, and I was able to do that, but I needed Boddicker.
And I remember they said you reminded him of that after the game as well.
You're a great coach, baby.
What is it about the coach-player relationship in that instance, and we see it with his guys at Tennessee now, that are comfortable enough with him to not just offer suggestions, but almost challenge him in some ways?
I mean, listen, a coach has his view from the side.
Yeah.
Right? But when you out here on this court, just like it's things he gonna see from the side, being in between these lines, it's a different feel sometimes as a player we're gonna have that coach can't feel out there. So for me and Coach Barnes, we was able to have that conversation that we can have throughout the game, because it's not the same pace, it's not the same energy the entire 40 minutes you're out there. And that conversation for me is I play the game in segments, so that's how I played,
Sure.
Segments. I knew the way I started the game is not how I was going to end up in the middle of the game. So I kind of had a strategy coming into every game, and it would change based on who we playing against.
And you're still involved with the game now. So what are you doing that still has you involved with basketball now, TJ?
Man, I retired in 2012, just unexpectedly with my injury, and just been involved with youth sports ever since then. So just, training and doing AAU and developing kids from 3rd grade all the way up to high school. We put a lot of kids in college. I put a lot of kids in the NFL coming through my program. We haven't put we got some guys that's close, getting to the G League. And then in the summertime, I have my own gym and own facility, so I'm able to work out a lot of pros now. James Harden was one of the guys that's in and out of our gym a lot in the summertime, giving kids a lot of wisdom. So
nice.
It's just been great. That's how I stay connected to the game, and man, I just love it.
TJ Ford played for Rick Barnes at Texas, and you got a chance when Tennessee went back to Austin last year to spend a little bit of time around the program, and specifically Kennedy Chandler. And when they got back from that trip, Coach Barnes kept telling us how much you helped Kennedy in that moment, whether it was frustration or just learning how to play for Coach Barnes. How did you help him?
Well, me and Barnes got that relationship. When you get these top players like that in guards, and they have that expectation of getting to the NBA, right away, as soon as these guys, commit to the university, I get engaged with those guys. And Kenny was one guy that I was just texting not too long ago. It was just helping to go through it. It's a lot of pressure, man, when you have your family there that you can change everybody's lives, but when you come in here, you can't rush the process. College basketball is not as easy as everybody think it is. You're playing against older players. You're playing against guys that are coming at you when you get to these type of universities. So when you look at Kenny came to Austin. He was doing a little stretch where he was struggling and just kind of second-guessing himself. And at the end of the day, it was just giving him the confidence to understand, like, being a big-time player, that's what you want.
Yeah.
You wanted those expectations. That's why you're here. And you just got to embrace it. And you're not going to play a full season perfect. It's impossible. So just let them know, I went through every year I played basketball, I went through a period where I struggled. And you just got to, embrace your struggle. You got to just keep working, and you got to just stick to the fundamental things that it takes. And that's why I was able to help him get back to, because those players depended on his leadership. And, he was real down, and I just had to be able to pick him up, because, he wasn't just affecting himself, he was affecting the whole team by just not being as confident.
One thing I want to hook into that, it's really interesting. It's not uncommon for guys to help their former schools. Rick Barnes no longer at Texas, but you're still working with him and helping him with his current guys. I think it's really interesting that you're there to offer support because he meant so much to you. In that regard, when you watch Zakai Ziegler now for his second year, you got that point guard look. What do you see when you watch Zakai Ziegler play?
Oh, man, he was a force last year. He won a lot of games for us. He was able to come off the bench and now being in a role where it's a leader. Obviously, what he brings to the table is so valuable that this team needs. And they depend on him. I think tonight he started off a little slow, a little kind of decisive, but I think overall he was able to pick it up. And, look, he was able to get his team what he needed.
Now, did I hear you correctly? You say he won a lot of games for us?
Yeah.
Woo, that's a relationship right there. I love
He won a
that.
lot of games. I mean, he was big. Kennedy was the main force. He was the headliner, but that guy there came in and, he was able to settle things down and coming off the bench and affecting the game in a different way. He's a big part of Kennedy being in the NBA. And I think you got to have that. And when you look at Rick Barnes, he's a two-head guard type of coach.
Right.
He needs two of them. So, he was huge. Now he has a different responsibility this season. And he's doing a good job. He's got to just keep getting better and just keep working.
Rick Barnes in one word.
Man, just winner.
Woo! Can't
Winner.
say it any better than that.
Winner.
I imagine he'd say the same thing about you.
I know he was so proud when you got your degree in 2017. What was it like to be next to
Well,
him?
it was a difficult task, man. We was going back and forth of which way that I should be able to get my degree. I had 3+ years, 3 real full years of going back.
It's not like you had 3 hours to
Nah,
grab.
man, I was real student. So, going through the process and just, buckling down and just having to just get it done. And, he was a huge force of keeping my confidence and being able to do it, because at that time, I retired. I didn't know what was next. I had a family going back and forth, and actually physically had to be in class, but I thought it was one of the best decisions that I had to make, not only just for myself, but to be able to finish off, the standard off the basketball to off the court of education.
Well, I know he's really proud of you. Thanks for stopping by. You continue to recruit for him. And your Texas team's in the top 5, too. Pretty good run.
Oh, man. UT, baby.
That's TJ Ford. Volunteers up 62-39. 62-39. Great visit with TJ Ford, who played for Rick Barnes. Texas, he was a first-round pick in that loaded draft with LeBron going first overall in 2003 of the Bucks. He was the first freshman to lead the NCAA in assists. He averaged 8 1/3 assists a game on a Sweet 16 Texas team. But you hooked onto something he said when he referred to Rick Barnes' Tennessee team as we. What does that say about Barnes' relationship with former players?
Father, son, something that you can't really put a statement on. He looks at Coach Rick Barnes' family. So wherever Coach Rick Barnes is, that's where his alliance will be as well.
That's pretty cool. Julian Phillips with 14 points. Tyreek Key has 3. Tayshawn Comer, well, we're talking TJ, picked up his 5th and fouled out. So Jackson Holt, freshman from Cincinnati, getting some run here for Eastern here in the second half. Tennessee's turned up the defense. Good look inside. Plavsic got a hand in the small of the back, which is why he got called for that foul.
And you see Eastern Kentucky trying to come back and attack points in the paint, and that looks pretty clean to me, candidly. But Tennessee has certainly did what we talked about earlier, just dominated points in the paint. 26-18, not as much, but the second chance points, that's been the difference. Plus 11, 21-10.
Yeah, that was the first foul on Plavsic. And Isaiah Cozart has another one coming his way.
This is what you have to like about Eastern Kentucky and Coach Hamilton. Their style, their energy, their conditioning, their effort hasn't quit the entire game. And that's what Zakai should have been doing the entire game. Instead of waiting and trying to get guys on his back. Use your speed and quickness and just run through the press.
That's why TJ Ford likes Zakai Ziegler's style so much, huh?
Thought that was interesting, too.
Had his number retired at Texas. It's not something they do much of in any sport. He went down and he is grabbing his right knee, and it's actually looks more like his quad.
Hopefully it's just a cramp.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Walker throws in the 3. We love athletic trainer Chad Newman. We just don't like seeing him on the floor.
Sure.
Tyreek was a standout at Clay County High School. Tom Sokoviak had a great nugget in their notes. He was an elite scorer in high school. He was a 3,000-point scorer, one of only 22 in Tennessee prep history. But in the state tournament, he averaged 43 points, 13 boards, and 5 assists a game.
Whew.
That is carrying your team. From Salina, Tennessee, and went to Terre Haute to play at Indiana State. You get your name on a sign outside of town.
You don't have
big
that
time.
I was assuming.
Oh,
that.
my picture is up in the post office.
Okay. Figured something like that. And it looks like Obviously, we don't want to assume, but
well, you're halfway there. Go ahead.
just looks like that quad's starting to cramp up a little bit, especially the way he's walking. Like you don't want it to tighten up anymore. He's able to put plenty of pressure on it. You see the trainer just massaging it. You're right, I was halfway there, so I figured I'd go ahead and run through the finish line. It's that kind of night, Tom. Eastern Kentucky deciding to go to the matchup zone. They haven't really used as much as their man-to-man pressure. It's actually what they used to come back in the Georgia State game. More of an uphill battle here tonight.
Julian Phillips rips a net from the corner. He's got 17. He'd only made 3 threes coming in all season, able to knock one down here. Loose ball. Ziegler has it. 2-on-1. Here's Ziegler to keep. And credit Kama with the tip, I suppose. Wow, what a save by Ziegler. Blind pass, and Kama's got another.
A little pressure of their own by the Volunteers.
The Morenos hit some big shots tonight. That one was short. Tennessee's 7-point outburst in the last 45 seconds, led by Ziegler. Plavsic shovels it to him. He's going to share it again. Shot clock at 4. Ziegler for 3.
Nice. He's come a long way. When I came to watch him practice, you know, right before the season started, he looked a little comfortable, right? Kennedy Chandler's gone, just kind of assumed this position is mine. It wasn't like he wasn't playing hard, but he wasn't quite as hungry.
You know, to your point, that was a battle last year,
Sure.
each and every day, and I feel like it made both of them better.
Absolutely. Versus this year, the position's already mine. Coach Rick Barnes, he's the leader on this team. And after that Colorado game, I give Coach Barnes credit for not only making him come off of the bench, but Zakai for reaching out to Coach Rick Barnes and saying, what do I need to do to get better? That's the kind of accountability and love that you want going on within your basketball program.
Plavsic got the rebound. Tennessee on a 10-0 run. Eastern shooting just 22% tonight. Tennessee 4th in the country in points allowed per game. Number 1 in KenPom defensive efficiency. And the field goal percentage defense coming in at 34.5. That's 3rd best in the country. If this trend holds, it's going to go down even further. 76-43. Tennessee's got it on cruise control now. Time for our Mayhem Moment brought to you by Allstate. It's Olivier Nkamhoua.
Well, Olivier Nkamhoua, who's, I thought before he goes down with the ankle injury last year versus South Carolina, was on his way to becoming Grant Williams-like. I feel like he's got just an incredible upside. Played with the Finland national team this summer, so was able to get confidence back. But I still am looking for him to take that next step. We talked about having a tough shot maker when they get into postseason play. He's certainly one of those guys that has that potential. He's still trying to figure it out in between the ears, but he's gaining confidence, high basketball IQ. I think it's just confidence that's really keeping him from going to the next level, as is that guy, number 2 in white, Julian Phillips.
Well, speaking of Grant Williams, in this series history with Eastern, he had a pretty good one last time these teams met. That was an absolutely loaded Tennessee team. That was 2018. Tennessee won 95-67. Grant had 21 and 11 with 5 assists. Admiral Schofield had 20 points. Those players, that roster That was the foundation of what Rick Barnes has continued to build.
Yep. And I always remember first time I came to his practice, and I said, a lot of expectations, Coach Barnes. Said a lot of people are excited about how you're going to get it done. And he said two things. I'm going to get it done, and I'm going to do it the right way. And with so many coaches around college basketball doing it in different ways, I think you would agree, and everyone who discusses Coach Rick Barnes would agree that he has gotten it done the right way.
They took full advantage of his recruiting prowess, and a lot of it has been made of what the Tennessee football program has been able to accomplish with the NIL money that they put together, and rightfully so. That's a part of, while recruiting inducements shouldn't be part of it, that is a part of recruiting and program strength these days. And I ran into another SEC staff this fall when we were on the road for football, and we're talking about their ability to bring some of this talent in, including Julian Phillips, and he paid Rick Barnes the ultimate compliment. And he said, listen, don't let that grandfatherly exterior fool you. Rick Barnes, he quoted, is an absolute assassin on the recruiting trail.
Yep. And he's proven that, right? Phillips is 4th McDonald's All-American.
Do you think that the competition level for guys, head coaches in the college game, is the same on the recruiting trail from an intensity level as it is on game night?
Oh, absolutely. Because when you're rebuilding a program, as Coach Rick Barnes has done, as Coach Musselman, Coach Pearl, Coach Oaks, when you're rebuilding a program, it starts with your ability to recruit.
Yeah.
You have to continue that with engaging your fan base. You have to develop your own identity and continue to build your culture over time. But if you don't have players, I don't care how good of a coach you are. It's not the X's and O's, it's the Jimmies and Joes.
Well, here's a Jackson Holt, second-team All-State from Raven Prep in Cincinnati. And here's a look at some SEC rebuilds, what Pearl's able to do on the Plains, and then what Rick's done here in Knoxville. And Eric Musselman, 3 straight 21 seasons, back-to-back Elite Eights. Nate Oates at Alabama.
Well, you look at that. 2 NCAA tournaments between 2006 and 2019, and now he's going back-to-back, and I would be shocked if they don't go this year with Brandon Miller and company. So the rebuilds have went into effect, and what's happened in the SEC over the last 5 to 7 years has been sensational. What a turnaround.
And I thought on the recruiting trail, it has kind of come to its head in this freshman class. More five-star recruits, I should say, as Plavsic goes with the jump hook, than any other conference. And you mentioned they're littered throughout the conference. It's not just, for example, Kentucky pulling in a bunch of one-and-dones and everybody else struggling to keep up.
Right. Well, and I think that actually it's a positive, but at times it is a challenge because offensively they haven't quite gotten to where, as Plavsic, once again, the enforcer, offensively the SEC hasn't quite gotten over the top. Elite Eights, Sweet 16s, Final Fours, but offensively it's such an NBA style in the Southeastern Conference because you have so many NBA players. But on the collegiate level, I think at times the offense can get stagnant, and that's where this league has to continue to cultivate themselves offensively to get to that next level.
Tennessee finds the offensive rebound. Plavsic going tough again. And he'll get another trip to the free throw line. I was talking about the toughness of Uroš Plavsic. We were talking politics late in the year last year. We're talking about his home country and everything he's been through during the NATO bombing of Yugoslavia, which look that one up on your history books. It lasted 2 months, 2 weeks, and 3 days from March 24th to June 10th of '99. His mom was pregnant with him at the time. She spent, along with many of the other citizens, just about every day in a bomb shelter while the home country was being bombed. And he said, the things that, so luckily I didn't really live through it. I was just there with my mom, but The thing that family has been through, and,
Sure.
and now he's here counting his blessings, playing SEC basketball. Life can take you on some funny twists and turns, huh?
Well, it's when I went over there after finishing in 2000, 2001, they still were actually turning off the power in Belgrade for hours during the day to try to save power. So if it was a dark time of the year, it could be pitch black from 3 o'clock to 3 a.m. the next day because they were conserving power at the time.
That's not something that just lasted for a few months.
No, not at all.
Minute to play. Tennessee up 82-46.
1 minute remaining.
Volunteers are going to go to 8-1 on this season. This will be their 22nd consecutive
Ooh.
home victory. Beautiful move by Jahmai Mashack. Jahmai's got 6 now.
Known for his defense, ranking 12th nationally in his steal percentage, but I think offensively he has an impeccable upside.
A couple of standouts in this one, including Julian Phillips, who's got a double-double, 16 points and 10 boards. Patry, and it lives up to the name. 5'11" freshman drains a triple. Coming up in a moment, we'll get you to Pitt and Vandy. I was with Dane last night in Fayetteville. He's now home on his couch, getting ready to work that one. Here's Ziegler. Left it short. Somehow Ziegler ended up with that one after Kobe Owaka had the rebound. Clock will run out on Eastern Kentucky. Tennessee, a dominant second half, outscoring the Colonels 52-28 since the break. Nice greeting between A.W. Hamilton and Rick Barnes. Volunteers, 7th in the country, now 8-1. Time to get you to Nashville and on the West End, where Vanderbilt is meeting up with Pitt. And to call, Roy Philpott along with Dane Brad.